Yeah, it's a big part of what they want to do. Because I know it, and I know that.
All right, we're going to start our open space public forum. Just to set the precedent, this is intended to be a public forum primarily, but if we run out of public comments to discuss, then we're going to review other things that I had on the agenda. Ideally, this will occur between 6:30 and 8:30 and hopefully no later. But just so you guys all know, you guys are free to comment on really anything that is said tonight, but the whole intent of this meeting is that hopefully you've reviewed our proposal, our open space recreation plan proposal for 2024. And if you have comments, concerns, pros, cons, like let us know. And so there's also an online format, which we will review that as well, but I think since we have people here, we want to address the people that are here. So if you wish to leave after your comments, you can. And just so you know, this is also recorded. So if anyone wants to step up and speak. Oh, actually, one more thing you can see on the table. We have our previous open space plan. If you're interested in that, we have the 2020 master plan, which is supposed to somewhat overlap with what we're creating as well. And then five maps that are currently in the final stages, but will probably be incorporated into our plan.
Can I just add in? Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Harrington, Assistant DPW Director. I just wanted to add in, I do have to leave a little before 7 tonight. So if there's any DPW items you wanted to get in, I just wanted to let you know, and I'll leave some cards here too as well, if you want to reach out to me after the meeting or another day or anything like that. I didn't want to just get up and leave. So David Honored is GIS, also with DPW, and Joe Bertnazzi is our parks foreman. He's on via Zoom. So there are some DPW people here even after I leave.
That's a good point. I should also introduce myself. I'm Hannah Crawford. I'm the conservation agent for the town. And I kind of lead this group.
You definitely.
Okay.
Might as well go around the table then.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's Board of Selectmen.
I'm Chad Kelly. I'm just a public member. Is
Yeah.
that the word?
Yeah.
Nicole Rakowski, same public member, resident.
And then also in terms, like Rob Lucier's over here, he is the town planner. I guess he's unsure if he's part of our team or not, so he's
part of everyone's team.
yeah, that's really good. So if there's anything he wants to chirp up about, he totally will. So anyways, if anyone wishes to, step up, to say your name if you wish, and then let us know your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Don Martinez, resident, but also select board member. And the question I have for the board is I haven't had a chance to review all of your items, so I have a few questions. And thank you very much for all the work you're doing. I know it's a lot of work. As part of this process, are you part of the group that are thinking about the Community Preservation Act in CPA? You could, because as a select board member, I'm a big fan of that. I know it's attacked, but I think you look around area communities that have adopted CPA, and you look at their parks, and you look at open space, they're doing a lot of good with it. And no one wants more tax, but it's a great way to preserve open space. It's a great way to add additional. And if anyone read any of the Facebook stuff that I put out there prior to me running for re-election, I'm a big fan of having a new centralized playground behind the middle school. I've got some grand ideas of what I want to do there. I've talked to a lot of people about it. I know the town itself is a big fan of wanting to do something that's more centralized. Bellingham, as you know, is a long, narrow town. Be nice to have something more central. There's a lot of space, even though the school department owns that land. We could work cooperatively with the school department if they're not going to use that land for anything. So that's just part of what I wanted to ask. If you're thinking along those lines, I hope you are. If not, as a select board member, I'm certainly going to be pounding on Sahan's door to make sure that we're considering it. And the other, just for clarity's sake and context, how often has this, because I, was on the select board for a while, then I wasn't, now I am. And I know this was all started when I was off the board. I'm just curious from a historical, when did this group form to start thinking about all of this? Just a little background. I'm not sure if you've had a lot of these meetings or if this is the first one with community input. So that would be helpful to have a little context.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're gonna address CPA and then I'll give a little background. So,
Great.
I found that document in the conservation office November, October of last year. Just stumbled upon it and it said on a sticker, needs to be renewed by November 2024. And I was like, we should maybe do something about this. I created the survey. And it was, given out at the town meeting, the fall town meeting, and then it was sent out in multiple avenues. And in December is when we kind of started reaching out to people saying, would you be interested in participating in this? And I was very intentional about making sure we had very different perspectives, individuals, different boards, people who aren't a part of boards at all, that were a part of the process. I think at first we started every 2 to 3 weeks in January, and it really was just page by page saying, this is the old one. Have we done any of this? Is it happening right now? Where we are in the process? And then it turned into just monthly and slowly creating what you guys have seen, hopefully, me broadcast the past month, the proposal. So it's always been public, but really advertised. This is the first true advertised public input.
I know where you're coming from there, because you can go through 2.5 years of public charter and bylaw review committee meetings until the very end. Does the public show up after 2.5 years worth of hard work? So yeah, I get what you're saying. But that's great. No, thank you. That context really helps, because I do remember back a few years ago when Jim Cupfer was the planner. We initiated something on something. We actually hired an intern for the summer to start a survey. And I never really knew whatever became of that. I think it was, her last name was Edwards and first name, but she did a lot of work, survey work, the whole bit. And I don't know where that ever went. I don't know if you ever saw the results of that work that she did. Sarah Edwards that's what it is.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Yeah.
I think that was the master plan.
Was that the master plan? I thought it was after the master, because I was on that committee.
I
So
know Megan Edwards. was-
Megan Edwards.
Yeah, was the-
Megan and Sarah sisters.
Yeah, she was the intern who
Yeah.
I know drafted that. Might have been something afterwards.
Yeah, okay, I don't know if you saw that, but it doesn't matter because you've done a new survey and that's more current, so I wouldn't even worry if I was just curious if this kind of piggybacked off of the work that they started to do.
I created the new survey based on the old survey that was in there, and I changed some of the questions, added questions. But I will look into that because it's important to see trends.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, I'll be quiet now.
No,
And we also looked at the maps too and made them better.
Yeah, it's
They
great.
were old format, even when they're copied, they don't look very well.
May I,
Yeah.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the reason why actually we started to advertise it, it's, on a public level at the moment, we didn't want to basically just go out there, without having all information updated for whole community. So we want to basically just put everything, updated, and then, whatever needs to be done, and Hannah was great, as well as every single board member, to put everything in a perspective. And then kind of streamline it, and then now here we are, that's what we have done so far. And then we gotta take it to the next step. And so that's where we at the moment. So I think, that we have a lot of answers, that we can and come up with the answers for your questions you might have.
Yeah, that's great.
And I would say it hasn't just been meetings, like, I feel like I've gone on field trips to places.
Oh, yeah.
Survey.
Yeah, I forgot.
I went to places in Bellingham I've never been to before.
Yeah.
I might have crossed the line by mistake, but there's been a lot of work, like your intern, Hannah's done an amazing job with this.
Yeah.
It's so well organized. But it's been a lot of, not just meeting, it's been a lot of, you've done so much, you guys have done so much work with DPW. And I feel like we're moving forward and making progress, as opposed to when I been involved with other things, it seems like it's just stalled. Like you said, we did a survey and didn't know what happened to it. So-
Yeah, well, so that's awesome to hear. The context is really helpful for us to understand all the work you've put in, what you have in place here, and I think it's really helpful to hear that, so. Thank you, and then I guess the follow-up, I think you haven't a chance to answer the CPA that.
Yeah.
So if you could talk a little bit about the board's thoughts and where you're going with that, because I know there's some folks here in this room that are very much in favor of leveraging that vehicle to do just what it's intended for.
Yeah, so Sahan's been a little bit more of the, like, we kind of put this on his task, or, yeah, a little bit, but, it's also been on everyone's agenda to try to create some kind of way to communicate how important it is for us to get, the CPA to pass. So one of our interns created this PDF flyer for us to share with the community eventually, and so I think actually, we said September was when we were gonna start reaching out to different groups and just really explaining what it is, what it could potentially be used for, and how it impacts taxes and, you know, those kinds of questions that everyone has. How's it gonna impact me? So I don't know if you wanna say or anyone
Yeah,
else wants to say.
I can probably jump on that a little bit. So, and I'm glad actually Mr. Connors, yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is, I think I pick your brain a little bit on this too. And what it comes down to, you know, it's the bottom line is whatever we decide as a town, the first of all, there's gonna be two steps. It has to go to the town meeting and then majority, and then after that, it's gonna go to the ballot. So once you pass those two, and we can propose it before we come to the town meeting with some numbers. We were actually putting all the numbers together. If we get 1%, 1.5%, or 2%, that's what it comes down to. And it's how much money is gonna cost for quarterly or per household. And I think it's I don't have everything on top of my head, but I think it's gonna cost, if you do the 1%, I think it's gonna be roughly $40. If you do 1.5% or 2%, it might be somewhere around maybe $75 to $80. And then that will be additional to your taxes. However, and what it does, it actually, whatever we raise and then state matches that.
Yes.
So, and then also, there are no limitations. I think there are some limitations, but it can be used, land purchases. It can be used for, recreational. It might be parks. There are historical, there is a lot of benefits. We can use that. And the reason why I'm saying to Mr. Collins is, he kind of explained that, you know, when it comes to the numbers wise, you know, it's what it might be affected, or if it can affect, you know, it can be additional taxes to our, property taxes. Yes,
Can I mention that this act exempts the disabled, the elderly, and low-income people? So I think that's an important factor when you're talking about taxes.
Yep.
You know, that our average tax rate in town is $4,800 a year. So that would be at 1%, $48 a year. If we, you know, up to 60 if we go to 1.5, so.
It can actually be structured in a way.
Yeah.
Where you could say, we're gonna do 2.5%. And that's commercial and that's residential, and we're gonna do for, as Joyce said, disabled or whatever, 1%. So, and you can really structure it however you want, you just can't go over that 3%. So you can really delineate that, so if you want to give a break to disabled or senior citizens, you can do it based on income. There's a number of ways to structure it. I think it's an important thing to come up with a structure that makes sense. And present it to the select board for us to run the numbers along with, you know, Betsy, it makes sense. But yeah, you can, and I would look to, because Bellingham has always been very generous to senior citizens and to veterans and to disabled individuals, more so than area communities. So I'll just give you an example. My mother-in-law is 85 years old. She's just recently widowed. And she has in Medway, she has $85 bill every, every quarter, every 6 months or whatever it is. I think it's like $170 a year. Now, her social security is $700 a month. She doesn't get a break. So that's wrong. I told her she needs to fight it, but I don't think in the town of Bellingham that we would want to burden our senior citizens who would have, even if it was 2,000 a month, with that extra tax.
Yeah.
Because it's likely they may not even use these newer facilities in town that you would want to create for the citizens. But that's just thought, there's a lot of creative ways to put this together without it, when you're presenting it, it's not like, oh, here we go again, taxes just went up, we just did an override for a fire now, because that's what you're gonna get at town meeting. You're gonna get it, and you just have to be really careful how you present it.
And just on top of that, it's actually just to help the senior citizens. And what we did, what actually, it's I think the last round around, it's when we increase the senior work program. And just to help to make that really actually the first step, because basically we can't go up to $2,000 on that part, just to help that, and then that kind of, take the initiative to get ready for the CPA before we propose it, but I'm definitely all up for it,
Yeah.
and I think it will be great.
One minor thing to add to something that you said is, we don't wanna tax the elderly, especially if they might potentially not use the properties that we create. And one of our key action plan focus things is creating accessibility and inclusivity. Because I'm a new mom, I know that I'm trying to get out of the house.
Yeah.
It's not just people who have kids playing baseball and, their 15-year-olds are out doing tournaments and whatever like that. It's, elderly need those spaces too. So they're not forgotten in this.
No, it's great, and I've actually, in my travels, take pictures of various playgrounds, when I was in upstate New York, and it was literally a playground that was designed for senior citizens. And I've taken pictures of it, and I've got the manufacturer, and I've done a lot of research. It's phenomenal, which is part of my vision for that behind the middle school, near the track. It's a walking thing, there's machines that you can do this, and you can stretch, and they're all for outdoors, upstate New York, some of the worst weather around, right?
Yeah.
And they withstand the weather, it's really phenomenal, so there's, again, sorry, I'm talking an awful lot, but I have a lot of ideas.
We appreciate
I
it.
think that
Yeah, go
Hi,
ahead.
Nina Benjamin. I'm just curious whether or not, I'm very thrilled that you guys are pursuing this, and I hope the rest of the town will actually support this idea, because I think it has a lot of benefit for everyone, which is really important. I'm just wondering if you've reached out to any of the other towns to talk to them about how they see how it's benefited their particular town, and where you guys are at on that. And my second question is, do you have an outline plan? I did not review your material ahead of time, so I apologize, but do you have an outline of how you see this going out? Because for some of us, we're hoping that we get this moving sooner rather than later, so thank you.
For the first question, both of you guys have
Yeah.
spoken to other towns, so they'll answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've reached out to other towns, parks directors mainly and park superintendents. More so on trails and what they're responsible for. If it's a parks director, say that they're in charge of programs, and they also in charge of the trails that the programs use. So just to get a sense of other towns, who's responsible for what. On the DPW side, it's just a lot of just the maintenance would be a part of anything new that we're taking care of or build. So yeah, we have, my discussions weren't so much on the CPA, but it more so on, like I said, like park superintendents, what exactly they're in charge of. Parks directors with their programs, is it just programs or programs and playgrounds? So just to start getting a sense of, who's responsible for what in area communities.
So I would say that, again, not specifically on CPA, I would say I've been to many communities who use it. The easiest example is Medway. and what they've done with their CPA money. I know that because I go over there and play pickleball, so, and we don't have any here, and that's just one component to it. I would say when we start talking about things and we bring up maps and like vernal pools, I have no idea what we're talking about. So probably my benefit to being on this for other people, maybe it's a benefit, maybe it's not, is my background is like athletics, sports and things like that. But I'm a hiker, I like to play outdoor stuff, I think we need more, and I'm also a health and phys ed teacher, so I have a great interest in people getting more exercise in general, however it is. I met with some folks in Rentham, but not specifically CPA. My concern when we do things is to maintain them. Because we don't want to do something and then it looks great, and then a year and a half later, it doesn't. Right? I mean, our town common looks great, but there's other parts in town here where we've just kind of let it go. I say we, because there's maybe not enough resources, not enough people. We do have a parks. Joe Bertnazzi is on, that's a new position through DPW that's gonna hopefully kind of move us in the right direction. But that, for me, that's been my biggest concern. I live over near the high school and middle school, and I walk that area all the time. And I just see things and I'm like, we need to get the old goals out of the woods that have been there for since I moved here. Things just seems like that. But to improve those. So as far as CPA, no, I am very interested in CPA just because I've seen what it's done for other communities. And I do understand the hurdle that we're gonna run into when you say, well, what's it gonna cost me? And I get that.
When you look at Medway, and I know a lot of people over there. I grew up in Medway with my friends over there. And the CPA, and we look at the Oakland Street Park, we look at Choke Park, we look at it's amazing what the CPA has done. And the types of equipment in the park, and the basketball court, and pickleball court, and all of that. Let's say they also got a lot of money from power companies too.
Sure.
That helped out, which is why they have those fancy street lamps and stuff along 109. But a lot of the CPA money is going toward that, and they're also they're buying up open space and community gardens and things along those.
It's all connected to, like,
It's all
you
connected.
can walk the entire thing, which
You
is
can,
great.
it's really amazing, it's quite impressive, and that's kind of the vision. Then glad there's a CPA, like the vehicle to help. And those are easy things to sell. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna answer the second half of her question first, which was, just because I haven't said it out loud, if you want to access the proposal, it's an 8-page, hopefully easy to read document that I created, and it's on our website. If you go to boards and committees, you'll see that there's a page that's open space, and you'll see it's the second chunk of the website. So there is kind of a summary of what we got from the surveys, kind of our 5 pillars of where our action plan comes from. And then we basically divided it up by each of our main recreational sites. Originally, I was going to also divide all the conservation stuff, but there's so much, and really our intent with all conservation parcels are almost all the same, so it is under the same goals for right now. What I will say though, this is the step 1. I expect for each of these to have multiple steps beneath each one. Like, we're very like, we're trying to make sure that when we say that we're going to be doing something, we need to talk about how we're gonna do it and the steps to do it, not just say, it would be great if we add bathrooms in Silver Lake. Oh, what does it take to do that? So you won't see those tiny steps when you look at this plan, but the intent is there that if this does get approved by the state, that will be added on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Marjorie Holman, I have read quite a bit from the state. My question is, have you approached the state and said we're interested in the CPA? Because I saw all sorts of resources from the state that are available to us to be able to make a campaign, but it requires a whole committee of people who do the campaign and then a board of people if it gets passed. So there's actually got to be a lot of grassroots people wanting to do this. Have you all reached out to the state to get the support that they have available for us?
I've personally used some of the resources from the CPA's website, but not talking one-on-one with anyone yet. And I don't
No.
think anyone else has either.
You've got people who will come out and speak to us.
And I would say our CPA talk has been the last how many months? It hasn't been
Yeah.
from the beginning. It was, we have all this stuff we need to do. How are we gonna do that? And then it got into like a deeper thing.
Yeah.
Sahan might have brought it up. So I think we're at that point where we're like, we want to do it. Now we have to get the people from the state. I brought up in front of me, and if you have a group in town that you think we can go and speak to or something like that, I have a list going. It's got about 25 things on here, but please reach out, because I think that's our next step, like who are the stakeholders in this?
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. And then also just to piggyback on that, I'll talk to Dennis and see if he's already had those conversations and already has those connections, before I just like go out there. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Bernadette Huber, and I'm here in like kind of a dual role. The first thing I want to let you know is that library just finished our strategic plan for 5 years. And then one of the questions we asked, an overall question is, what essential service is lacking in the town of Bellingham that would greatly enhance our quality of life? And the number one thing was community and recreation spaces. That was, and this was a fill in the blanks. It wasn't an option. It was just like what people said. So I think we're on the right track. That was what.
When
people
was
thought.
that survey
Yeah,
released?
it was just done over the summer.
Oh,
It
okay.
was just
Wow.
over the summer. Yeah, I can send some of that information
Yeah.
to you. Because we had the person who facilitated it not only did what does the library need to do, but what does the town do? And how can the library help with that was kind of what the focus of her facilitation of our strategic, we had focus groups and then we did surveys.
Nice.
And the other thing is I'm the secretary of the historical commission. And we also have a lot of people that come to us like, why is that building being knocked down? Why is that, and those are actually things that the CPA can, if the town chooses, so I want that to be on the record that we're, I think the historical commission would be a good part of this for those types of, and I think that's a big decision, do we buy a building or buy open space or whatever that is, but, people come to us and say, why is that happening? And it's because somebody owns the land and that's what they're doing, it's like they think we should have some control over it that we don't.
Okay, yeah, that is good information. Any comments on
We did have the Bellingham Historical Commission on here.
that? We're gonna connect with you.
Yeah, I wrote your name down and everything, so careful what you wish for.
You know?
I'm gonna let Don talk next.
Thanks. Don Coelho on the Conservation Commission with Hannah. First, thank you for everything that you've done. It's clear that you guys have spent a lot of time putting this together, and it's pretty exciting. From a goal perspective, have you targeted a particular meeting, like, but in year that you want or would like to see this presented to the town? Is it this upcoming one? Is it? Because based on that, a lot of things have to be put in place prior to make sure that it has the greatest chance for success.
Yeah,
I'm talking about CPM, right?
you're talking about in
Yes.
general or CPA?
Well, I was talking specifically about the
Yeah.
CPA.
Good, okay, 'cause that makes more sense.
So I'm just gonna jump on that.
Yeah.
So since we started talking about it, and then, we wanna gather all the information, and in case if you have a question, probably you will have. And then we wanna have all the answers, the numbers, how we're gonna do it, what's the next step? So we were kind of thinking the gear, basically just, the gear right after September, and then we shooting for spring, town meeting. And then, we were actually thinking to get active right after September, and then we can start to mention and talk about it. And then I'm glad actually a lot of interest out there too. We can use everyone's help to bring the awareness, what we're trying to do, and then how much benefit, how beneficial it will be for the town. And, just the years to come. So we were thinking to get it active September on, and then kind of gear it up right after Christmas. And then have few meetings, gatherings, reach out to anybody we can. And then after that, basically, it's get ready for the spring meeting. That was the whole plan for it.
And that kind of aligns with this, I don't think the state will say no to our plan if I turn it in after November 2024, but hopefully the goal is this would be given to them before the end of the year. So if we come back with an approved plan, we can be like, we had this plan that all the surveys, all the people in the community say they want these things to happen. In order to do that, it would be really helpful if we had this.
Yeah.
So it kind of aligns with
So
that.
piggybacking off a comment that was made earlier about the state and their requirements with boards and other types of things. I think it's great. I love the goal for spring. I was hoping that you were gonna say that. But it also likely means, those committees and understanding what the process is, all of that needs to be sort of nailed down fairly quickly. I know from the quick glance, I looked online too to see what I could learn. And after attending many, well, not many, but multiple town meetings, we already had a conversation about how it's important for a voter who's gonna vote on, if you're gonna raise a tax, what does it mean to me? Well, one of the things that I think we don't do the best job in on a town is actually presenting information to the target demographics that go to that meeting, that vote on things. So if there were, after your survey, if there were 3 demographics, you know, people with children, elderly, I'm just making it up. But they're the ones who are primarily going to the town to vote on those meetings. Having real world visual examples that reinforce, here's what Medway did. You know, here is what Rentham, I don't know, but I know a lot of the surrounding towns have utilized that. So that so they can really see and understand it, because you know, you think about the conversations that have taken place over many years about improving and enhancing things throughout the town. The more those voters can understand why it's worth their taxes going up $80 or $100, I think the greater the likelihood is that we'll get enough support for it. But if it's just presented in a way that those demographics don't really appreciate the value, I think it'll be, you know, 2026 and we'll be trying it again, type of thing. So anyway, that was just.
I think you raise a good point, and I will say it's not going to be $80 to $100. It's going to be the price of one sweatshirt per year.
Right. It's all in how it's, you know, presented. And then kind of related to that, because one of my neighbors owns a big piece of property, the Crooks, the ladies who have been involved with the Historical Society and whatnot. And I know their family is very interested in preserving that property. And so they said, you know, it's too bad Bellingham doesn't have a CPA. We're struggling to find ways that we can, you know, preserve that land and collaborate with the town the way that it is. So and that's just one family that I know. I wouldn't be surprised if there were other families that have long historical roots here in town who would like to see open space preserved so that the culture of the community itself, you know, is maintained. You know, I think advocating on behalf of the CPA is one really powerful way to be able to help make that happen.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Chad, you too.
Our organization has already talked about if it would be helpful to have a forum in March on the CPA. I talked to the CPA guy and who said he would be open to coming out, explaining it, answering questions, detailed questions that, you know, we don't have here, the answers to here. But he's more than willing to come out and provide material, any materials you guys want.
What organization are you?
I'm sorry?
What organization are you referring to? You said your organization.
Bellingham Democratic Town Committee.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
We've hosted a couple of forums at the library already, so if it will be helpful.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we'd love to have a conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, March might be kind of late though, just, I'm thinking if we're targeting spring, we
Yeah.
probably need to have that conversation. Well,
To be put on the ballot, CPA said that a good target would be the state elections in 2026 and be put on the ballot, on that ballot. So it gives us about a year of organizing and getting things together in order to be put on the state ballot in 2026.
So it has to be on the state ballot for Bellingham to.
Well, it only comes to Bellingham. It's only Bellingham citizens that vote on it.
It's not so the election's not just for the, I was thinking town meeting in May.
Right,
Yeah.
And fall election or June election, right, the town election.
So
We'll have more people at the state election
Yeah.
is what CPA was
Yeah, I
saying.
see what you're saying.
yeah,
You
but
talking
if we
also
can,
at
so
the state level in their office?
Yes.
Okay, it's confusing.
Yes.
if we can get enough information out there, going forward. And then if we can discuss it, and then if we can, succeed in town meeting in May, and then probably we can prepare right before that, because town election is gonna be in June, first week of June, right, a few weeks after. And then we can put on the ballot, and then actually we can at least try to pass it. But if it is, obviously, if it doesn't pass the town meeting in May, and then we can come up with another game, or maybe another game plan, or we can discuss it, or we can look into it. What we didn't do wrong in the first place, I don't wanna say it, but I mean, at least kind of look at a learn situation, at least we can figure out what we need to do next.
Franklin took 2 tries to do that.
I can imagine, you know, it's,
Spears was on one of those campaigns, the most recent one, and so, she is offered to consult and give help with that. So she's been through it, and they did succeed their second effort, so she could tell you what didn't work and what did.
It might be worth like one of our next meetings to have that be like the bulk of what we're doing, because we will run out of time. Like, I know it seems like it's a long time away, but things come quick, so it might be beneficial to have someone from the state come in and just give us the whole lowdown, like these are your steps, and then also have someone who's gone through it a few times, but do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Because I think we're gonna, seems like it's, the more we talk about it, and again, we haven't spent a huge amount of time on
Yeah.
spending. The more we talk about, the more I think we need to push it back.
and also on that part, isn't it, I mean, it's, if you look at it. What we had just done the last 6 months or so, we had just asked the town. To a health prop for the paramedics. And so we just basically asked the town, I know we wouldn't needed it, and we just basically had to do it because last 10 years we haven't done it, water and sewer rate adjustment. It's not much, but so those things are kind of piling up. I think, you know, one of the reasons, and I was kind of pushing forward for the spring, at least it will give us a little bit more time to explain people what we're trying to do, and then bring all the positives, what he can bring to us. I think there are questions, I don't know, and I think Mr. Connors.
Yeah, I've raised my hand 4 times, so I'm gonna ask it again now. Why can't this be done at the fall town election, town meeting? And I'll tell you why, because in the 15 years I was on the board, I had people tell me that it was stupid to bring up the CPA. And because it's gonna be a tax. The easiest thing for the Board of Selectmen to do is when the split tax rate comes up, we're at 0.89. Is to say, we will go to 0.88 or 0.87. And whatever is the difference, raise it through the CPA. The warehouses in this town can pick up the difference, and it's a net sum game for all the residents.
Well, hooray.
It's frustrating as all hell. Why are we talking about 2026?
Yeah.
Put it on the fall town meeting, put it through. The Board of Selectmen makes a statement that says, if you approve this, your tax rate will be 0.87 or 0.88. And it's, when you say 0.87, it's not 1%, that's a different number. And if it fails, you set the tax rate at 0.89. It's simple.
It's been 0.89 for years.
It's been 0.89 for the longest time, and I've had discussions with the Charles River Watershed Association twice in the last 5 years, and they're like, what is taking Bellingham so long? It's a myopic viewpoint to throw out 2026. It's, just do it.
And I think
Go ahead,
also if
Six.
it doesn't pass, then it's at least on people's
Yes.
agenda that we're gonna come back and we're gonna do this again.
And if for some reason it happens, the
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen just comes back and says, fine, we'll put it at 0.90.
Yeah.
We'll go the opposite direction to make up for it.
I know, that's what I was gonna say earlier, I was picking your brain, and it's, we never get around, and maybe just. Let me have the conversation with Dennis, and then let's see, I might, do Do you mind if I reach out to you, just to pick your brain a little bit more?
I've been talking to Dennis for 15 years about this, and he and others have said, this town won't go for a tax, make it net and raise the freaking money that this town needs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we
The
can-
conversation I just had the other day too, I'm not gonna get into the depth of the conversation, but he goes, the town will go for it. I said, well, there's a way to make the town go for it.
Yep. And
That's what I
the way
said.
to make them
That's what I
go
said
for
to
it is to
Dennis.
make it net neutral. The tax split is the way to approach it.
You know, people spend money for what they want to spend it, you know, they do all kinds of things. They have cable in their house, they're spending 300, 400. They got cell phones, they're spending $300, $400, $500 a month. If people really see the benefit of what it's gonna mean to them and their families, they will buy in, and I think that's. your
If you
point
do it as
is-
the tax rate, you don't have to worry about senior discounts because it's neutral.
That's right.
You don't have to explain and try to sell it to them.
I mean, it's, I will definitely take the lead, and then, if we can come up with some kind of plan, we don't have much time, but, see if we can get good traction. And, if everybody thinks it will be okay, and, I mean, I want the CPA to go through more than anybody else, I don't wanna just, but we've been talking about it, and because I see the benefits of it, and, it's, you know what, I will definitely do a little bit more due diligence, and then, if you can push it through in November, and then, if you don't mind, if everybody can leave their contact information, or if you wanna send an email to Hannah, at least, what we have here, I didn't mean to put it. Or if you wanna send an email to me, and then whoever is here, and then I will reach out to you personally, and, we can definitely get this ball, rolling, if everybody's on board.
Pass around.
I'm sorry?
We could, you have a.
Would that happen? I could ask Rob to go get.
I do it right now.
Oh, okay.
I've got my clipboard.
Don't let us have it.
I mean, I kinda like the idea, it's, just do it and get it done with it, if it doesn't, and then, we can take another crack at it in, spring.
I think another point is you've heard a lot of complaints about this building going up, that
Yeah.
building going up. And, I say, but put your money where your mouth is. If you're gonna complain about the development, and this is an opportunity to preserve some of that space. I think it's a good time to do it. If that's.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm all for it, and then if we can spread the word, and then, if that's gonna be the best idea, I'll do a little bit more due diligence, if you can't push it through a November meeting, and then let's do it, as a town, at the end, it's something, we decide what we're gonna do for our future.
Yeah.
And, I'm all up for it.
If this
I'm
is the
really
committee
excited
that's
about it.
driving it.
Yeah.
The town's gonna wanna see a concerted message.
Yeah.
And effort from not only this committee, but the select board, and that message has to be uniform, and it has to be in a
Yeah.
positive, I mean, you gotta market this, I don't disagree with Mike at all, I've had this conversation with him.
Yeah.
The problem, and I agree with you 100%, is we sit around and we don't do anything, and then we go to this town meeting and the same people show up. And, if there's forces in place against it, they will rally against it, and a better job has to be done to market it. I think we all agree, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of citizens, if it was presented to them in such a way that they could see all the positives and the benefits, and it is just a sweatshirt. That's the way you want to couch it, I don't know if I would do that, but. Maybe a few sweatshirts. But, I just think to say, oh, we'll get, we'll just throw it on the ballot, and I know he doesn't mean it literally like that, but.
Yeah.
If you get the right people and the right momentum now,
Yeah.
we can't really wait. To market this thing in such a way that it really presents itself as a positive, you have a much better chance of getting it to pass.
And if I could add to that,
Yeah.
I mean, part of the challenge of the spring is the quote unquote quid pro quo. If you do it in the spring, there's no guarantee that the Board of Selectmen would make up the net neutrality. But if the town meeting has this, the Board of Selectmen in advance of the fall town meeting could make a statement that says, if this passes, we will make a proportionate adjustment to the tax rate, and a vote has been taken. Because the implementation with the state is a window with the Department of Revenue. And the timing of that is such, if you do it 6 months later, people are gonna say, there's no guarantee that the board's gonna do that when they come around in November to do the tax rate. But if you try to put it on the fall, let it fail. But if you put it on in the spring and let it fail, you're waiting another year. The sooner the word gets out,
Yeah.
and when people stand up and say, it's not gonna cost you more money, because you know who's gonna pay for this? Amazon's gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
And all of the warehouses are gonna pay for it. And after everything that Steve Goyette has done relative to the warehouse, people would be happy to stick them with the additional money. And the only person I would worry about is the Charlie's Tires of the world, or the pizza places that are considered businesses that are gonna take a bigger hit. Because those are the
But
businesses.
what's interesting about those smaller businesses, I think Michael knows this too. When youth sports programs go out and solicit
Yeah.
for uniforms and equipment, it's the Charlie's Tires of the world and the Black Hawk
Yeah.
Pizzas and the Tony Corey's, they're the ones that donate the money, so.
They always
If
do.
they're not gonna be the one, but they're gonna initially go, oh, I'm getting hit again. But when they see what the good is, and the point is, I think, at town meeting. Like we did years ago, and I was part of it, getting the football field, when you do a professional presentation and you show. Visual images of various playgrounds, and this is what it's happened in Medway and in Franklin and Rentham, and you show that, and we're not asking, hey, when it comes to February. When we set the tax rate, we're gonna make sure that, this happens. And
I'm
that's
glad you
kind of
brought
what
that
we'll do.
up. That football presentation was the best I
Oh,
had
dude, we
seen.
worked hard on
And,
putting that together.
and the town voted in support of it, like
Yeah.
emotionally, everyone saw it and they got it.
And
Yeah, you gotta make
and
it
it was
emotional connection
massive.
to everyone.
And it was massive turnout
Talking
for
about
that
the
night.
turf.
Yeah, when they put the, yeah, the
Well, there was, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even with the override, the school committee override, when they had the, out of the football field, they had the town meeting the football field. So there are ways to do it, but what I think, what I just wanted to say is this committee has one agenda that they're working on. I think it's important, if there's all these moving parts to the CPA, I think you ought to set up a separate committee of individuals as soon as possible to start thinking about this together, and I don't know who that is, I'm not volunteering, I've got enough committees I'm on right now, but my point is, I think there should be a group of people that can organize very quickly and reach out to the state and talk to Dennis and, et cetera, because you're doing one thing, but I think the subcommittee, like I think Marjorie said, there has to be committees in place.
Yeah.
So you might want to think about how you pull that committee together, and I volunteer Mr. Connors for that. He's been after it for 15 years, we served for a long time together.
When the turf went through, we did it all via email. I mean, we had
Wow, yeah.
500 emails. I mean, if you want to get anything athletically done, you send it to the 500 families that participate in sports, and we'll overwhelm town meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let's not forget the power of social media.
Yeah, and the businesses do need to be reminded that of all of the towns in Norfolk County, even with any increase that they incur, they still have the lowest tax base in all of Norfolk
So
County.
I'm gonna, maybe, we've spent almost an hour on just CPA, if there's more to it. I will give you like 30 seconds.
Okay, we got a big election coming up in November. We could have a one-page flyer. Every voter that walks in gets one of those, and that, it's gonna be presented at town meeting, whatever. I mean, yeah,
3 weeks.
Which they have.
3 weeks before.
They have crafted, but I don't think with the verbiage, and again, I don't know the political side of this, that's definitely not my specialty, and weighing one against the other, but I think we have progress on that, it's just tweaking it so that eyes of people who know what the tax levies and all this other stuff are gonna do, I think that's an important piece for people, so we have done it. I haven't, the interns did it, and Hannah did, it, so.
Yeah.
We're on.
I will be on that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Um,
I will jump on that.
No, I had a slightly different topic, but it's related not to CPA, it's related to the
Open
plan.
space. Yes.
Yes, so, when I went through the plan, I have, and maybe frankly, it's because I'm looking at it on a laptop, and so I'm trying to figure out priorities.
Yeah.
And rankings, so, trying to understand, what are the top 3? That if the money and resources were available, these are the things that we really want to do. And I couldn't easily see that. And so maybe it's there and I just missed it, or maybe it hasn't been sort of prioritized.
It's a very good.
But you can't boil the ocean, that's, you know.
Yeah, so we originally tried to approach it, like, we took the survey results and everything that everybody said and said, where do we think is most important to approach first? And I just very specifically remember Chad saying, like, it's impossible to choose what's more important, accessibility, like, handicap parking spots, or, protecting vernal pool.
Yeah, we were trying
No?
to, we were debating, like, I was trying to rank them, I'm like, I can't really rank these, because does that area need, like you said, it was
Right,
like,
but somehow you have to.
yes,
Well,
Because
So-
I completely understand it, but you can't do it like looking at the plan, I'm like, this is awesome, but you
Yeah.
need
Right,
tons of money and tons of people.
so that's why we reorganized it as the 5 categories is identify and define, repair, maintain, enhance, and share.
Yep.
I would say at least a third, if not more of this, is free or very cheap to do. Educating the public, that's, well, it's not free, it's my time or
Yeah,
someone's
but
time
it's-
doing it, but it's not.
Man,
Right, exactly. So, there's no need to prioritize that financially, for example, for the most part. And then the other things I think we will prioritize a little bit more. It's just more about where it's all about the funding. And that's where I think the CPA comes back and what kind of grants the state has. Because if there's certain ones available that we can apply to, then it might
Right, that's
prioritize one
right.
thing quicker than the other. If we can get the Parks and Recs commission more than just Joe, then maybe we could bring on more certain things, certain goals that we have. So it's kind of intentionally not prioritized right now. We don't know all of our resources yet.
and I think the other discussion we had was maybe taking a place that is in pretty good shape and making it that, and for low money, maybe it's just time
maybe
and
high exposure.
and
generate
focus on
some-
that, post it and say, this is this, and start making a little bit of progress. So
Yeah.
I always use the trails that are behind the softball fields, right? There's a great trail down there that goes to the river, and it's in pretty good shape,
Yeah.
needs a little bit of work, and there was a Boy Scout thing there, I'm like, we could just paint that quick. Fix the signs, clear a couple trees, and that's a great
And promote
space.
it around the town.
100%, and then we would get that when people say, all right, we're making some
Yeah,
progress. here."
absolutely. It's
So
really
I think
good.
that's for me the next thing, and I think we can maybe. When we start looking at, there's so many spots that it was overwhelming. When I went to, I'm like, I don't know, we could do that. So I have that one already planned in my head, but if we can do that and like cost it out, if there's any cost. Or DPW needs to do X, and then we can have a group of people if they want to do it. I'll take my 2 kids up there and we can cut a few things down and spotlight. I think that's
Yeah.
when you get kind of a snowball effect, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, think about high value targets more in
Right.
that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, low cost.
Then we can ask for money.
Well, it's even the middle school, you look at the playground that's there,
Yeah.
it's nice. But it may not cost an awful lot to make it a little bit larger and add some newer equipment. Now you're right in the middle, there's all kinds of people over there. That's another high value area, and it may not cost an awful lot of money to add on to what's already there.
I think, just through this conversation, one thing to mention that, will always be prioritized first is safety. There's some things under the repair category that it relates more to safety than to anything else. So I guess that will always be brought to the beginning. Because if we are encouraging people, educating people, saying, hey, here's some places you can go, come hike here, but it's not safe, then it's on us for not creating that safe space. So that's another thing to consider.
But I do envision a page that has like this spot, this is what we need to do, like a list of things, and then who could potentially do that, volunteers, DPW.
Yes.
Or we need $10,000 to resurface.
Yeah.
That's in my head, I think where we're eventually at.
Some of those projects are great for like Boy Scout, Eagle Scout projects.
Yeah,
too. They can-
yep.
Yeah, but they're smaller money.
The 2017 plan did have, I think it was maybe the last map, had their action plan mapped out. I found it very confusing, and I went to grad school and took like a math class in grad school and found it confusing. So one of our intents to this proposal is you should know absolutely nothing about open space and be able to read it and understand it and see where our goals are. So if it makes sense to map it out, we will do that. We just haven't done that yet.
I think Ariana was working on that.
Yeah.
We have that draft
That'll be the
map,
Final map.
Oh, yeah, she does have a draft.
but it's like blank, like it's literally just the shape of Bellingham to be filled in.
Until we.
Any other public comments about our plan or?
Great work.
Thank you
Just
so much.
what are the kind of the action points that we're gonna focus on leaving here? What can I tell people? What are the action points that I can talk about leaving here? That are gonna happen pretty quickly?
That are going to happen.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna talk about putting this on this November meeting, I mean,
Right,
we
right.
gotta move.
Right.
Yeah,
But I had one more question. If you're going to do research as quickly as tomorrow morning, our CFO Heidi Shuckran can do a calculation of what 0.89 to 0.88 would be. And that would give you an idea as to whether you were within that 1 to 3%. I mean, if the difference between that is 1.75, that's an easier target than guessing whether you want to go with 1 or 2.
yeah, I think she was putting those numbers together. I think you had some,
There was an
you had
example
some
on the
rough
flyer.
numbers,
Yeah.
and it's, we cleaned that up this weekend, and it's, I will pass that out as soon as possible.
I think, I think you understand that we need to communicate the CPA and we're
Yeah.
gonna quickly do that part. Do you wanna have other takeaways besides the CPA or is that
Well,
your main?
I don't know when is your next meeting?
Month.
So between before then,
Yes.
I would just, because people are gonna ask me what happened, I would like to come out of here and if there's anything you want to communicate,
Yeah,
that we're gonna, that what the action plans may be. Maybe you can send us out an email. You have people's emails,
Yeah.
just a quick, hey, here's what we talked about, here's what we're thinking about doing. I'll talk to Mike offline and get some input from him, but I want to start trying to sell it.
What I'm thinking to do is the first thing tomorrow, and then hopefully latest Friday, I will get all the information. Obviously, I'm gonna CC you on this email too.
Yeah.
And then, we'll send all the information we gathered so far, we'll pass that along to you guys, as well as with some numbers. I'll get that done probably hopefully tomorrow or latest Friday.
Do
And,
you think that you're going to form a subcommittee?
specifically for CPA.
Mhm.
I could foresee us having a representative being part of it.
Yeah.
The state really I don't know if it's required, but they do say you have to have a board of people who are publicizing it or doing the steps, doing.
I think that's
presentations.
crucially important.
And that's what they say is you have to have that, but then those very people cannot be on the administrative board that decides where the money goes if it gets approved. So you've actually need about 14 people to be able to pull it all off. You need people that will campaign and
Yeah.
then people who will sustain the effort. I'm a campaigner.
I'm a campaigner.
I am not a
Make a
sustainer.
note, will you please on that list?
Yeah.
So I think people, I know for me, I wanna see a plan, so you work backwards from like the date that the town meeting is, and then say, by this point, we need this done, by this point, we need, and keep
Right.
working backwards. I think that's important. When you said and this is where we need to know more about the CPA in general, I think. I have gone on the website, I've looked at it, but I am by no means.
You need to talk to some people
Yes,
that they
100%.
have people.
Like in the
that
next
can
week.
talk. Yeah, they have
Yes.
people that are ready to jump in and help them.
Right.
So.
I got some people I can reach out, and then, as I said,
Yeah.
let me start with the part, to make sure we pass all the information to you. We'll get some numbers, and then hopefully we'll get that by Friday, and then, I will reach out some people with the CPA too, and then I can use Hannah's help.
Yeah, so I would think we probably have a goal in the next week or two to have a meeting specifically on CPA.
Yeah.
And if we can invite someone, the person you said from Franklin, or if we can invite a state person, that will get things going, I think.
Right.
Right, I think that's number one.
Yeah.
And the other stuff we're doing is great, like, I feel like it's almost two separate things, even though they're
Yeah.
related.
Yeah.
All the things that you want, all the stuff online that you can't go through, it's hard to look at, but I think we gotta, if we're gonna do it in November.
Yeah.
The shorter ones. I agree.
I think like, obviously you can explain the CPA to people, but then if you wanna say this is what it could mean in Bellingham, you can use what's on our website, which has the PDF, and be like, here's all these examples that at least the Open Space Committee is hoping to obtain in the next 5 years, and would be really easy to do, majority of this if we had a CPA.
It's found money.
It really is.
It's crazy not to do this.
It goes
It's like
to
your
every
401k,
other
it's
town.
matching funds.
I mean, they
Yeah,
match, yeah,
exactly.
they match all the sections.
Take advantage of it. Every other town is doing
I like it.
Any other comments about anything, I guess?
And I'm happy in the meantime to try to work on a timeline, so we can
Yeah.
start one way to work.
Is it fair to say we'll just say, communication out to the citizens of Bellingham? Is it fair to say that tonight's meeting was outstanding, this is a great plan, but even more important is the Community Preservation Act and leveraging it and describing it.
Yeah.
It's important, and we're really looking to put this on the fall town meeting warrant. Do you think it's okay to start that? I mean, I think it is, but I think we should at least start getting the word out. Worst case is it doesn't get on the warrant, right? But it doesn't mean I still think it's a good way to get that out, and there's ways to get it out that's very positive. What you're doing is excellent work. Next step is maybe a brief description of what the CPA is.
Yeah.
And it's, it may not even hit their wallets, but I wouldn't say that. Please don't say that.
Yeah.
That's not 100% accurate, but as a member of the board, and Sahan's a member of the board,
Yeah.
if we're doing this, we're gonna do whatever we can to convince our board members to make sure that we take Michael's recommendation and
Yeah.
approach it from his point of view, the way he's
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll get the ball rolling tomorrow morning.
We've already
Oh,
missed the
yeah.
Bellingham bulletin deadline.
Yeah.
I think we might have missed it this month.
Yeah.
October.
Social media.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. A couple of people that are pretty good at it.
But there's plenty of time for November to get it.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I can share the flyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll get some stuff to everyone here. If you put your contact information here, you'll get something latest by Friday, and then we'll get the ball rolling, and then, we'll do our due diligence. And then with the numbers wise.
Probably back to White's. Started this meeting, right?
Will you post something or Andy?
Oh, why I asked the question. I
Okay,
don't
so
wanna
we can
overstep
spread
my
it around.
bounds.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
Citizens for Better Bellingham, which is what that Facebook page was originally intended for, was all of this type of stuff. All right?
Well,
So
and-
there's that, and then there's
This is also recorded, and I shared
Maple
this.
Street, Facebook, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
Share the recording.
Yeah,
the
if they got
recording.
questions, they can
Yep.
listen to this.
Listen to it.
Well, the cable station also replay it.
Yeah, this will be accessible through the.
The YouTube channel.
Through the
YouTube channel, yeah.
And it's also on cable right now.
Right,
Yeah.
so Hillary will probably have this up in a day or two. The link.
Yeah,
Cool. I imagine they can see it tomorrow, right?
Well, yeah,
I
once
give
it's
48
done,
hours.
Hillary,
Yeah,
I
once
don't
it's
know
done,
if
once we
it's
close it,
posted.
I think you can watch it.
All right,
As
well,
far as I know,
yeah,
yeah.
we'll get some eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good.
Right.
Awesome.
uh,
Thanks for everyone's support. It's
Well, thank you. This
Yeah.
is exciting.
I mean, as I said, I'm really excited about it because I was kind of, getting excited about it, talking about it, but now, it's.
Nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about it.
That's the thing.
We'll make sure.
As I said, it's really, I will maybe take the blame on that part because I was kind of a little
There's no
hesitant.
blame.
There's no blame.
I didn't know about it.
There's no blame, don't worry about it, it's okay.
I didn't want to kind of put it out there before we have all the right information to share with everyone, but now we have it. And I might as well just get it going. Don't worry about
We've been waiting 15 years.
Another couple of months will be enough.
I'll just plug Marjorie, she's got a great Facebook page of all the various hikes all throughout New England. It's awesome, awesome, it's really good. My wife and I look at it and look for different hikes for take our dogs. Just do it. Yeah, no, it's like a Bible for us. We like to walk a lot, so.
If no one has any more comments, there was the online form as well, which I can go through some of those things, but I think, like, for you guys, feel free to stay, but also, if you wanna, please review the maps that David has created, with the help of Ariane. If you have any thoughts or comments or questions, this would be the time to ask about them. There's multiple copies, so feel free to go up and explore all these things. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave because I'm disturbing you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. So. I'm gonna.
This is showing a childhood watershed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then stop the email.
That's just a regional. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. It's pretty funny because I was looking at a map, and all of this feeds into the Blackstone. All of this feeds into the top.
Yeah.
And then.
This is a little bit more happy to call and strong up.
Yeah.
That's
I
why.
really know.
That's more important.
Yeah. I love it. That's one thing.
This is a general zoning. Plan.
Oh, I just want to
Like I
make
said,
sure. Yes. That's right. That's why we're.
I don't want us to be like really, really like.
Yeah, just a little look at it. What it's showing.
Yeah. I don't mind pushing things if we can. I had always.
Oh, yeah.
told, like, oh, time these, right? Oh, don't do it during this meeting, it's not gonna pass, this is gonna happen, so.
Oh, right.
I'm also, I'm waiting for the guys.
So if you guys, we can have a forum if you want, anytime.
This was the.
Let us know. And you'll spread the word.
Yeah, and I mean, we had planned on here.
We just.
Yeah, this is.
Starting like how pretty, and started to look at like all the user groups, you know, historical housing, like. You see, that's added the Bellingham, Town Democratic Committee, I just got the Republican ones too while I was thinking of it. So that was our intention.
Facebook page, so I'll make sure it's flat.
We'll probably do have the interns who social media part because they're all over it, but.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, that's great.
I'm excited, so.
Me too.
Me too, yeah. Oh, that's nothing to do with me. Thank you, people that came in late.
Oh, I just give a look at it.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Rare and endangered.
Okay. Bring it back.
Yeah. Yes, yes. You guys so late. Email this. Yeah. Another.
Yeah, no.
On the left, on the south.
Cross Street is.
Oh, okay. I was.
That's not my.
There is some over there, because like it's bigger map.
Yeah, like.
Yeah.
So.
It's right here.
So.
Oh, you know, yeah, we are. The idea here.
It's like the side of the tax. Sides of company.
Oh, wow.
Well.
There's no like businesses larger than that get, you know.
No, I know, but also.
Yeah, just the right.
You want any?
Yeah.
Actually, it's right here.
Yeah, and I have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have time now.
Yeah, but I just want to go, I want to know what we're talking about. Like that. So, if we can get someone from the state, or someone, lady from Franklin, just to give us the.
Yes.
Where is that?
Yeah, that's this one right here.
Sounds good, thank you.
Well, that's the environmental, this one.
Well,
Open space. Okay, so High Street is 95. Right, so here's conservation.
Yeah. So, well, my house is just across the.
What is this white?
It could be developed.
No, but look how much. I don't think. Yeah, this is all separate from the state.
I think you're right, not your job, but like, push this and get it elected. Sure, like, if you need information, I think that's what for you, you shouldn't have to do it. I'm gonna be the one going like, what's on here. That's not private only. Please know that, that's not, is that what you were
Doesn't
like?
mean the land's not private. So.
Yeah. So this is conservation?
Yeah.
That's.
So you can't go across.
That's the high street.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's your law society, the sports groups.
That's why it was just part of the unit. We're not gonna like, yes, we want it. but
Well,
we're
that's
not.
why we need a separate committee.
Yeah.
We're working,
This is like.
they're pushing it, so
Yes.
it sounds like.
There are no houses on that side.
Probably just private meeting.
I think, but we don't know what it's zoned.
Well, the zone's over there.
Like having enough people. to-
It's not gonna be your notifiers anyway, I'm just curious.
We need everyone there.
It's a pyramid scheme, for lack of better phrase, not, like, I know these two people, they're gonna go get, you know what I mean? You go shoot this on, you know, with the, I was with a fairly new in town, and one of my friends is telling me, we're going to a meeting on Tuesday night, don't know many plans will go out after, but, and bring. Brandon, and they're gonna go too, because they're gonna wanna do this, you have kids. That's how the world works. I don't think we'll have a problem.
Yeah.
I wouldn't anticipate having a problem.
All right.
Sorry, environmental justice.
I think but let's say we are recommending the CPA, separate CPA committee.
We're gonna-
Public comment, we hear.
Yeah.
Are they just appreciating your art?
Quick question, just both. Open space.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna. We'll see you.
Yeah.
That was part of the topic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm running someone for office here.
Because I'm looking at these, and these are all town or state.
But if you created.
They're all.
So it must be all.
That's.
You have to- what's the push button?
Technically,
I see it.
all of this would be
I
open.
think if you hit that, it's not on.
Here, I'll give you
That would be
Part,
my
the
guess.
definition.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I haven't said anything.
Right, but these
I
are,
can be arrested.
some of these are open space parcels. Right.
Open space State, and so we will have to clarify that. That is actually federal.
It was just gonna be.
Yeah. It is a current layer, it's title.
Maybe it's that
But
trail.
still, your question was about the white spaces, so that would be private property.
Oh.
Like, no, like, it's private property.
Right, but it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it's not wetlands. It doesn't mean that it's not protected. Right. Okay.
But this is a good example of that.
All right.
The golf course,
Yep.
they're considered.
We're moving in the right direction.
They play a team, it's gonna be a team.
Yeah.
You guys- That's what I want to get. People to start seeing like. Yes, you have a committee, lots of committee, but what have you done? Like, give me something tangible.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. but there's limited use.
Right, it's restricted use or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks. That was really good.
Thank you guys for getting it. All right, we're gonna keep on discussing the responses, and we don't have to go through all of them, but,
You don't have to tell me the website again.
a week ago, I had 17 responses.
Everybody was here for the CPA.
All right, so we can do whatever we want. Yeah. So, and then, the superintendent, I think, sent this out to, and then I got 111 responses.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great strategy. Great strategy.
majority of people just wanted to vote on the signs.
That's
all right. That's okay. So, just so you guys know, the sign we're going with at 34% is option 1, which is.
Oh,
Round one?
You wanted the bees, right? You wanted the bees and the orange sign.
Oh, I didn't want, no, I didn't.
Wow, I'm surprised that they didn't go up for the brown one, huh?
Yeah, they want the brown. No, yours was option 2.
Oh, never mind.
So yeah, we're gonna go with option 1.
Okay.
Just so. How do I made this? Oh, I can't. Okay, so I did this in case you guys didn't open it. Because obviously you guys you've been putting your input by being here, so I didn't expect you guys to fill it out. But it's divided by each page. So when it says comments on page 1, it's talking about this page. So page 1 was just definitions. I didn't expect responses, but some people put in responses. So some people said that they would like to make sure that things are maintained, so that piggybacks
That
with what
wasn't
you're
me.
saying.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
I agree though.
Basketball courts well maintained, grass fields open. So I don't know if they're stating that it's already well maintained, or they would like that.
I think yeah.
I think we need to do a better job with Stall Brooks and common playground and make the town more walkable / runnable.
On that topic, Stalbrook, you know, it's the park is actually taking traction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's hopefully we're gonna get all the funding and then get that ball rolling.
Okay,
Can
good.
you, which, specifically what?
So
Behind the school?
I think if I'm not mistaken, they just highlighted where it's supposed to go. I think it's gonna be close to the baseball field, maybe out on the upper parking lot.
Are
And,
they doing anything to like where the existing tennis courts, which look terrible? I have lots of pictures.
I don't know, but I know it's gonna be, it's, I'm trying to find the right word for it, you know, it's, so there was an initiative that started, so they did a bunch of fundraising and then events. And, they collected money for, friendly, accessible, park.
Adaptive, so anyone.
Yeah,
can go to-
so
okay.
it's, so that they started a little over a year ago, and then it took some kind of traction, and then, you know, they did a bunch of fundraising, they collect some money. They were basically looking, to get more funding for that, to finish or start the whole project.
Yeah.
And, so there's actually taking a little more traction. I think, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, you know, it's, we found a way to how we can fund it. And, that's it's gonna get done. It's,
Is it,
quick as
where is
possible.
their information? I just wanna look at it.
It's in you have you have a little more insight on that? I had it, but I don't have the notes in front of me.
I don't, but I was gonna say, I know that there was supposed to be a meeting scheduled, I
Yeah.
think, with the contractor. Were you a part of that? I don't know if that was scheduled
So
yet.
me and Dennis, I wasn't part of that, but it's me and Dennis, we talked about it. It's supposed to happen a little over a year ago, because they start with the fundraising.
Yeah.
So they collected have some money to get it going.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, we were gonna, as a town, we were gonna take care of the rest of the funds in a various ways, and then I think, you know, we found a way to do it. I have the information, but when I saw the Stalbrook, I said, I will mention that.
Yeah.
So there is a project, it's gonna be happening in Stalbrook.
And
what I was gonna get at was, I think that it either has started kicking off with some site meetings. I was supposed to be invited to, I don't know if they were scheduled yet, but all I'm getting at is I can get some information. and see-
Yeah, I guess the only reason I'm asking, and
I don't know.
I was gonna bring it up at this, because I wanna get some wins, right? I wanna
Yeah.
get some wins. So one of them, I drove by, my kids went to Stallbrook, but they're not there. I went behind it, and if you guys have been there recently, there's old tennis courts that are in really bad shape. And it's actually a good place, and I know I bring up pickleball before, and that's me, but it's a good
There's a lot
spot.
of
If,
pickleballers.
yeah, if there's a base there that you can work with and fix the fencing, you could make it a multi-sport thing. The kids from the elementary school could use it, because they actually play basketball there, and it's not really like one of the gates is sideways, like it's, I took pictures because,
Yeah.
so what I was gonna ask from here, and I can talk to, I mean, Pete Morano must be involved with this a little bit, right?
Yeah, I would think the school would. put
Yeah,
some of
so
that
what
forward.
I was gonna ask here, and I
Like
will
you
do it
said,
now
see-
because we brought it up.
Yeah.
Is I would like to try to talk to, and like Doug Houston's involved with maintenance with all the schools. I'd like to just talk to them and say, do you guys have a plan? I would love to maybe, hey, can we find a group that could get rid of all the brush because it's growing in and over, like just make this a better spot for the kids at that school. But then also on a weekend, you can make it a multi-sport. You don't have to put in permanent anything. It could be one just large like space, like think of basketball court with nothing on it except the court, a nice flat area for them, because they have to walk across to the baseball field, which is also in disrepair. So if I'd like to just have preliminary discussions with them and just see if that's an option. I'll bring it back to the next one. That's one space. I have a couple others.
Oh, no.
We're gonna start at the softball field today.
People aren't gonna like us because we're actually gonna be out there like bothering them, like, we wanna do this.
Yes.
All right, I guess if you do get any kind of plans or process.
Yeah, I don't have any
Share it
plans. I don't know if there are any
eventually.
plans. I don't even know where it stands. I just know it was
Yeah.
brought up to me. I
Yeah,
think it was
that's
2
fine.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you're reminding me, because we'll get it. I don't know when your next meeting's gonna be. but-
Yeah, it's fine. I can ask Pete. I mean, I'll talk to Pete and something.
Yeah, I can present a little update.
Okay. Some people had no notes. I don't know what this means, active with smaller passive section.
Active with, is that a question mark at the end?
Yeah, so
Yes.
once again, this page describes the types of or open spaces we have, so.
You know what, how I'm envisioning that? I'm envisioning that like my child's playing soccer, I want a place to walk. I want a place to bring my child to a playground. You guys know what I mean? Which
Yes.
happens, like kids are playing field hockey and their little brothers on that playground of high school. So
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's what that means.
See, this is why I needed to go over this with some people, because I'm like,
I'm guessing that's what it is. Does that make sense to you
it
guys?
does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because there's not easy access.
Okay. Please protect and preserve our town land in areas more visible than the Charles River wetlands, which are somewhat remote or hidden. I recognize that development is important to a community, but my family loves to see protected lands and passive spaces with lots of trees. We have enough open spaces and athletic fields. We are a family of young kids who are all involved in multiple town sports. We have more than enough fields if scheduling was coordinated correctly and thoughtfully, so.
Get them on the CPA.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're enough.
That's also a pretty good comment.
potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of
That's a
aligns
big
with what we're focusing on. Like, a lot of people thought we didn't have open space, and it was really, we just didn't have good open space.
Well,
So-
and we didn't know, people didn't know where it was.
And people don't know.
I didn't
where
know we
things
had
are.
90% of the open space that we have is from being
Right.
honest.
It's, I was just saying that, I'm so happy, Hannah took the initiative and then, updated everything. And then everybody worked really hard, to get all the information out there,
Yeah,
because some of the things that has been hidden for God knows for how long,
right,
now we know it.
like those soccer goal posts. Okay, good representation of different uses, okay. Protected spaces, we need more protected space, we can always update the parks and trails and add to the spaces we have if needed, okay. This verbiage sounds like it will limit bicycles off trails, which is unfavorable. I'm not a bicyclist, so I
Did you
don't
repeat
have.
that?
This
Sounds like a mountain
verbiage
biker.
sounds like it will limit bicycles off trails, maybe they mean on trails?
No, off-trail biking. like
Off-trail biking.
Yeah, yeah. So that's mountain biking.
No, yeah. Cause they,
Are those,
they would make a rut. That would be.
don't
It's
they
a lot of-
ride on trails though? Mountain
They
biking,
do.
don't they follow a trail?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
the
the
words
trails
are
are
just
different than what you think.
Yeah.
So like the
Yeah,
Southern
they
New
could
England
be
Trunk
bumpy.
Trail, a mountain biker won't ride on it.
Right,
Because it's just to get from point A to point B.
right.
But the
But
one,
there's like trails in Foxborough that.
yeah, like at the end of Saddleback Hill, that
Yeah.
those, like, you'd wanna do that if you're a mountain biker,
Okay.
cause it's a little more.
Like the one.
But there's a variety, I feel like we have a variety.
Yeah.
So once again, I think they just don't know,
Yeah,
which we
right.
don't educate, so that's.
I think it's.
I don't want a lot of mountain bikers at the end of my street, but sure.
Well, I think,
I'm kidding.
and I think that comment is a prime example of kind of the disconnect with people with what open space is. Cause you'll look at like Joe's Rock and I forget what farm that is on West Street and Rentham Road. Like that's
Yep.
what I would consider developed open space, cause you have these nice accessible trails, but then you have other areas in town that like most of our trails are unkept, kind of
Yeah.
bushwhacked. Mountain biking trails, which sounds like some people would prefer that.
Yeah.
They don't have a trailhead.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
makes sense.
and some people would like a combination of all three, but ensure parking for these spaces, which. We've also noticed through all of our assessments, we don't have parking for a majority of
Very little.
places.
Yeah.
Okay. We need more community active spaces, large, safe, accessible playgrounds, spaces with parking and shade, and where more people can fit. Than just the center green, I think, does that mean?
Common.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Places that will bring people from other communities.
Like Choke Park in Medway.
Yeah, we need to host events and actually create a community in Bellingham. We need way better school playgrounds and grounds for the elementary school.
Amen.
They are a disgrace.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you my pictures.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That might be up to school department.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like, it's one town, that's our
Right.
school, I know, and it's
No,
like,
but I mean,
and no one
because-
wants to take ownership of it, that's part of
You
it.
had a disconnect too with mowing.
Yeah, that's why it's,
Blackstone.
there was a lot of like, is it your job, is it my
Because-
job, it's not my job, it's your job.
So
There could
back
be
in the, back in the
staffing
days,
too. and
it's-
funding.
most of the parks are in the season, you know, they used to be, the mow and maintained by, Mr. Arcan, Roland Arcan. Since he passed away, nobody did really take that role over, and you guys stepped in and then took the most of the maintenance for DPW. And, so school department, they took control of some of the fields very recently.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long was it, but you know, so I would say 5-6 years ago. Since they took it over, and there is a definitely somewhat disconnect, because as I said, Mr. Arcan, God bless his soul, he used to take care of everything regardless, all around town. And but now I think school department is saying, you know, maybe it should be you, maybe it should be me, or maybe there might be some conversation or not communicating enough. But hopefully now Joe step up to the plate,
Yeah,
and that will probably eliminate all the issues we have been having in this over the few years.
yeah, and he and Doug know each other very well,
Yeah,
so that helps
It's,
too.
so that will
Yeah.
probably will be gone.
Yeah,
Do
hopefully.
we hire summer kids?
Oh,
To mow
We do,
lawns
yeah,
and that kind of thing? Yeah, because a lot of towns will do that.
Yeah, we do.
College kids first, cause they get out, then high school
And
kids.
then high school, yeah, right.
And then we were short a couple this year actually,
Yeah.
too, so. And then Joe just lost a bunch of kids, go back to school.
Yeah. It's just seasonal, yeah.
And we did
Yeah,
hire
seasonal,
a
that's
new
the-
seasonal guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
That's good. too.
Hi. Oh,
Sorry, I had a late work night.
no, it's okay. We're just going through the survey results, from the Google form. If you have comments about our open space plan, feel free to chirp in, or if you just want to see what we're talking about, that's fine too. Okay, so that was all for page 1. This is page 2, which I just, created these pie charts to really explain what our open space was. Well, actually, this is what people thought we needed, but this is what is actually. What is open space, what's not, out of the open space, what is town owned? Okay, so half of the open space in town is owned by, what did I just say? Half of the open space in town is owned by the town. The other half is federal, state, private. So the comments on that, yes. Okay, do you want these sections to be targeted responses like, do you agree with this? I think they're just confused on the survey. Free range comments, okay. Yes, more space, less development. This is interesting. How does this compare to similar communities? That's a good question that I think would be maybe important to add on to the CPA conversation that I can work on.
This is a spectacularly sad pie chart.
Wait, yes, wait. Not open space. Well, a lot of people own property.
I want a pie chart that shows your vision.
The vision?
Yeah, so in other words, here's what people thought, here's where we are, but here's what our vision is, 10-year vision, 20-year vision.
Got the same.
But-
in the-
Yes, but I don't know, especially after seeing how much open space we have, I don't necessarily think that our vision is to acquire more open space. I think the main goal right now, unless there's particular parcels where we're like, this would be beneficial for us.
Well, yeah, because that's what I was gonna say, we have open space, but it's spread all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
There's like pockets, I'm just gonna, no politics or anything involved, but you think of the plaza that's over there. Imagine if across from the town center, you also had, 10 acres, 15 acres, 20 acres of open space. Now, I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just,
Right.
like, now you've got a real town center, or you can have
Outside of, yeah.
different pockets. If you had Silver Lake and you had, a quarter-mile radius around that entire lake, like, it becomes Lincoln Woods. I don't know if you've been down in
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
3-mile loop.
Yeah.
And there's acres and acres of land. I'm not saying we can create that, but I think we can selectively look at that. And you can connect these open space, if there's a way to connect these open spaces together, you end up with something that's special. You end up with a SNP bike trail,
Right.
right? That's just by connecting open
Right.
spaces.
Yeah.
So there are some,
And we did meet with the what was the
MAPC,
MAPC?
say what it is, Metro. What does it say?
Multi-development
Area,
planning
yes.
company.
Trying to connect all of those
All the trails.
trails together,
All the
which
old
is
road
fascinating, actually.
into, multi-use.
That's like a big thing around the country now.
Yeah.
People that ride bicycles, all.
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
networks.
But it's in the
Yeah.
same vein that you're talking about.
Right, but that's
connecting
exactly it,
spaces,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
And there was already work done to catalog trails in open space, correct? Kind of.
us,
Well, we're talking about doing that now.
Kind of.
Okay.
what he's doing, so I don't know if Don even realizes, he's been completing all of our conservation parcels and he did. I don't think. he has
I got
any
one
more.
left to do.
He has one more.
I spent 4.5 hours today mucking through the Charles River area.
So he's been doing that and now we're gonna collect all the ones that have trails on them. Hopefully with you and what resources you have, we're gonna be able to use the.
There really
coordinates.
aren't that many. I mean, there's more than I ever.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of like open space that has no real trails in it too.
No access, no sort of use
Right,
space.
right. But there's some beautiful ones, like the one that you were talking about. When I went through I've lived here for 30-something years and I knew there was a little Boy Scout sign, but I didn't go through it until the spring. Oh my God,
It's
it's
awesome.
gorgeous back there.
Yeah, it is.
And up by Beaver Pond,
Yep.
there's another network of well-maintained
Yeah.
trails.
Yeah.
Out of there. I don't know who does them, but they're beautiful shape. So those are things that, people knew, they utilize it and they get more community pride.
Probably my son's favorite place in Bellingham, because my daughter played softball and him and his friends would just go down. the
Oh,
trail.
it's spectacular
Yeah.
now. It's a network too.
Oh, behind High Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
spot.
I didn't even know that. And I've canoed that whole.
Kind of cataloging those though, that's where you might have a pretty
Right.
good plan on how can we connect.
But then again,
Yeah.
that's where the sign at the street that says
Right.
open space,
Right.
Yes,
pointing here, trail at the bottom,
yeah,
that's where you get more people to go to it.
right, and
Yeah.
our first chunk of our proposal is identify and define. That's because a lot of it is, people would ask questions and we're like, we don't know. Are there trails in Bellingham? We don't know. It's like,
Right.
you know, people who are out there using them, I know you've used little chunks, you've used little chunks, you've used little chunks. But like, there's nowhere online that's like, these are all the trails.
Marjorie's written about a bunch of local ones in her book, which is how I had even found the ones on High Street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I have her contact and,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work with her to try to.
Or where her
find the
Facebook site
GPS
is.
coordinates, yeah. But I guess that's to bring it back around when you said like, what could be open space, I think like, this is a 5-year plan and it's not that we don't wanna acquire more. But I think a conversation we had in previous meetings was being intentional about what we acquire.
Yeah.
There's also been situations where planning board, conservation commission. Will take land because developers are like, let us build this thing, we'll give you this land, but we aren't really thinking about what land they're giving us to be responsible for. And sometimes it can be a burden. So just being able to balance that and like I said, just we want to really enhance what we already have before adding more to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of?
But like in your situation, you
Yeah.
said there's a family that, like, we were talking about Community Preservation Act, there's a
Right.
family that would like that reserve, like, that's obviously something we.
Right.
Yes, we definitely want to,
It's
it's not a
not
burden,
like
it's just
against-
something else, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that we're against acquisition, we're just trying to be more mindful.
No, you wanna be mindful.
Yeah.
It's gotta fit a goal.
Right. Okay, I read, yes, I did. Less building houses and more accommodations for wildlife and residents that already live here. What's this? It would seem town could provide a slide as well as state and federal to increase overall.
I'm not even sure that's a sentence.
Okay.
We can move on from that.
That's the wrong word.
Are there any slides in Bellingham? Okay, it'd be interesting to see the land distribution of nearby towns for a comparative. Is 13.9% a lot, a little?
I do like that question.
That could be something we could calculate through GIS.
Or just looking at what's online now.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Franklin has a lot of maps.
yeah. The next two are really interesting, right? Because it's not even talking necessarily about like the amount of space, but to the earlier conversation of like, who's using it? Are people aware that it's there? How are people using it? Is it, can you even get to it? Can you use it? Or is it a
Yeah.
swamp?
Yeah.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah, that one and then the one
Enjoy-
below it, right? Like the idea of like community,
Yeah,
enjoying that space versus like. You see it off the highway, but how do you get to it? Who owns it? Are you allowed to walk around on it?
yeah.
I would be willing to bet, because I'm like a novice in all these, but that I didn't know about, again, 90% of the open
Yeah.
space in town.
Yeah.
And to start to look at all the parcels that we visited, and that's, I don't think people realize that. Like, the percentage is one thing, but to say like, oh yeah, there's a big trail right here, or
Yeah.
I haven't used even 20%.
But a lot of them are small. I mean, I
Yeah.
did 3 the other day that were all less than half an acre.
Yeah.
5,000 square feet, right? That's a quarter acre roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got lots of, but they're all little, like she
All
said,
very-
they're all, a developer probably said, take this, you can have it, I gave it you. It's a quarter acre in the middle of nowhere that you can't really get to, and
Yeah.
Right, yep. A rollerblade park. And that is it for page 2. I don't know where they got that for page 2. This was this page where it said, positive or things they hope for, concerns. Let's see if there's any. I think,
Warehouse.
Need
to leverage the warehouse, anti-warehouse for.
yeah, that's a whole, I'm sure they got a Facebook
We
page.
could build a skate park in the warehouse.
Okay, so
If
I
it's
am
empty.
intrigued by the conversation of sidewalks, because that's an urban perspective of open space and a DPW perspective, because you guys work on
Some
that.
have more. We've gotten a lot of inquiries about. Some are non-existent and they used to be, and some are still there. We're gonna start to do a plan based on MS4 as well. To
Okay,
maybe get rid of some, but keep others. And maybe
Okay.
make connections, and get some credits for stormwater.
Yeah, and I think,
We're starting to talk about it.
yeah, I know I had a pretty good conversation. I think it was with you and Jesse at one point about the sidewalks and,
Yeah.
because I know the DPW at least the stance that I've heard is that, and I agree with it, is once the sidewalks are installed, it's very difficult to maintain them. You need specialized equipment, and then once it starts to crumble, it's very expensive to replace it.
The needs are all across the board, it's everybody is.
But the other thing too, from an MS4 perspective and trying to limit your impervious area, I think it's a good opportunity to look at our zoning bylaws and our subdivision regulations where we do not require sidewalks on side streets, because typically with those, it's funny because you'll have sidewalks, but if the road is not heavily traveled, people will not use the sidewalks. How many times have you driven down the street, there's a sidewalk and somebody's in your way?
Yeah.
All the time.
It depends on how traffic's going. I walk all the time and I don't want someone on their phone.
And whether the sidewalk's
sidewalks.
crumbling.
Yeah, well, there you go, Ari, on that
Right.
point. So
Those would come up.
I would say the happy medium or solution to that would be change the regulations where if we have like collector streets, lanes, and all these different categories for roads. For the smaller roads, you don't require sidewalks. For the heavier ones where you actually are gonna have significant pedestrian traffic and there's safety issues with traffic, you don't require asphalt sidewalks like we do. We do concrete ones. So they don't have to be maintained as much. See, solution.
Is that more is concrete more expensive than asphalt?
Yeah, it is, but it lasts a lot
Does
longer,
it?
so,
Yeah, Center Street, for example, those are pretty decent sidewalks.
yeah, and that's,
And they're used,
yeah, and that's the trade-off is usually with those more heavily traveled streets, it's usually gonna be some type of state or federal grant that you're
Right.
using to improve.
Like in the
those.
middle school where they did the
Right.
intersection.
Exactly.
But then
so-
you keep going down Blackstone and they're in shop, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I think that's where. That's more of a planning thing, which is why I'm
Yeah.
bringing it up.
That's
Yeah,
what
these are things. that
We have
we
enough
know.
there.
Yeah. Someone I think emailed me about this, but as well, I noticed it's on here. This could be the same person. It might be different people, but a lacrosse wall. I've never seen that before in any of our comments.
No, they have them in other towns. It's where you can practice. It's a
Right.
simple concrete like structure that they have one at the New Walpole Fields. They have one in Franklin. They have one in Medfield.
I've also, because I Googled it, people can use it like multi-use for handball.
Yeah, handball, the ones that I've seen are multi-use, they
Yeah.
handball, you practice pickleball against it if you want to, if they have a line.
It doesn't take a lot of space. It's pretty small. You could add that to a project. It'd be nice. It'd be a nice addition.
There's a decent amount of comments, not just here, but I saw dog park multiple times, which I didn't put in our plan, even though we had discussed it. So I think that we'll have to discuss that at some point because the dog people are watching and they want it. Or some people are also the opposite where they're like, can we have no dog walk areas? So there needs to be.
Yeah, fair warning, the dog situation can get a little bit iffy. As you know.
Like cats and dogs?
I know.
Oh, it's just. The dog park idea, I mean, I own a dog, I love the idea of a dog park, but it's it's a liability, and then as soon as you place it somewhere, if there's a house nearby, it's,
Well, you gotta maintain it, like the one in Rentham, not too far from Joe's Rock.
Okay,
Is very well used, I haven't been there now in years, but,
yeah.
but it's off in the middle of an area and the town somehow maintains it,
Hmm,
you know?
yeah.
Franklin has one at Del Car that's like tucked. It's like there's
Yeah,
a playground, a dog park, both separately fenced.
that's
not
right, I
connected.
forgot about that.
Not connected,
That's
and then they have their like disc golf course and then a bunch of open fields.
But wasn't there money, and actually Don would have been, well, there was money allocated, I think, at one point. They were gonna try to put it up at High Street. And then it kind of fizzled out, it got pushed out, and then they were gonna move it down the street. into some open space, and I don't know why, it's obvious it hasn't been put in, but there was some type of money earmarked for it.
I
Through
think
the
it's,
state,
yeah, there's been a lot of conversation
Yeah.
regarding it for like the last like 10 years, I would say.
cause I know the softball people pushed back against it because they were like, how can we have a dog park? If we have a tournament here, there's no parking, and not enough parking.
Oh, right.
Oh, I was thinking about the actual ball. Like,
No, no, no.
go into the softball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's a sensitive topic and would need to be managed very specifically. That's not something we can just throw in a fence and just be like, hey, here's your dog park.
Yeah.
Well, we could,
Just
probably not a good idea.
probably not a good
Would.
idea. So, just letting you know that there's multiple comments on that,
Bear in mind, there are things like that, and I'm not speaking as an advocate for it, but it just
Yeah.
triggered in my mind. If you've got a vocal group of people who are advocating for something, they're the ones, I mentioned, what are the demographics of the voters you're looking for?
Yeah,
If they're passionate and they're gonna say, no, I really want this, I'm gonna go to a town meeting and I'm gonna vote for that CPA. Because I'd like this quarter-acre dog park. So you wanna be thinking, I think, about some of
Yeah.
these things where there's a lot of passion, you can leverage that. To help
Yes.
you accomplish your overall goal.
Yeah, interest groups, whatever, yeah.
Right.
100%.
good point. Okay, we're all pretty upset by the town just bulldozing meadows and trees to add huge empty warehouses that don't do a thing for the town except make it uglier. Oh, and will
We gotta
add
leverage that rage.
More-
Oh, I know.
more traffic to roads that are already clogged up as it is.
Which we
So I'm
which-
just gonna speak
yeah,
to
which
that
we-
for a minute, just one thing, so it said they don't like how the town
I know.
bulldozed it.
Right.
So just,
Improving.
the town is not the developer and people have the right to develop their property, so, I just.
Yeah.
The DPW
For the
keeps
record.
driving that bulldozer.
No,
No, but as a layperson, right? They don't always understand how the process works.
Yeah,
So they're
it's-
gonna say, well, the town's allowing that to happen, and we are, our zoning allows for it. What
The plan.
they don't always connect the dots is, well, then you have to change the zoning in order to prevent that from occurring.
correct.
But that's, that is,
I just wanted to state that the
Yeah.
town is not the developer.
Like it on record.
Yeah, because then it does come up a lot.
Yeah.
Yes,
And the traffic it's obviously we are. Right next to 495, the location, and the Bellingham has always been a pass-through town. It's always been, it's always gonna be, and it's not gonna get easier, unfortunate to say it. And probably a lot of people around town, they might remember, we didn't really need a set of lights, traffic lights. From Stalbrook all the way down to the Mobil gas station, used to be just the blinking lights. And you could hunt behind the Home Depot way before the Home Depot was built. But it's those things are changing unfortunately, and then the 495 is right there. So there are some things, it's not in our control, unfortunate to say. So if somebody wants to go to Mendon, we cannot just block the road, we say, no, you're not gonna go to Mendon, I'm sorry,
Go
It
around.
does-
Yeah.
It's, so that traffic is gonna be going, somehow.
Well, some of that is traffic signaling too, but
It
I
just.
mean, there's just a lot. of
I'd like to
traffic.
put speed bumps on half the roads.
that would be
That's been
something.
talked about.
Yeah.
okay, I don't wanna repeat too much, cause we're definitely leaving in 11 minutes. I'm telling you right now. And I can export and share this and for the record, if
Does this
anyone
see that?
was
Is that-
interested, yes, you can. Yeah, I will definitely share this with anyone who is interested, because it's public information.
I thought there was a ton of public interest, though. I was really pleasantly surprised. I guess my expectation was low. I was like, oh, no one's gonna
I'm trying to
care.
read
Yes.
that.
And
Right,
the feedback.
Yep.
Yeah.
I probably can zoom in the screen a little bit more.
Positive.
Okay, once you started moving, I realized that this wall was the screen.
Yeah, I've been trying to look at
I know.
I've been trying to look at that screen the entire time.
Some of the same themes. I don't know
Yeah.
if you look
There,
at
well, there's definitely a theme around like use of the open spaces and how is it being used and how are they connected and how do we take advantage of it and tell people that it's there and let people know it is a resource and not just assume it's someone's backyard, right? Because sometimes you're like, is this private property? Is this
You got the magic.
accessible property?
I tried to do that earlier.
Yeah, and I think like, so
I
this
know, see?
person, like, you know, they have a slightly different perspective of the same conversation. You know, if areas are looked at for open spaces like athletic fields, public access, please consider traffic patterns. And then they're saying, I'm begging not to have high traffic on my small street because there may be open space parcels somewhere. I purchased my home for the peace and quiet, so. Like. That's a hard one to respond to, because like Rob was saying, like, we do have a right to do what we want to do with our property if it's intended to better the community. We can't cater to every.
So you don't want to put a
person.
pickleball court right next to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's the
Like,
traffic.
I wanna be
study.
mindful of that,
It's
of
coming,
course,
yeah.
but.
And I think,
But that's available.
But it's like buying a house next to the high school and like, why are the lights on at 7 o'clock on a Friday night?
Right.
yeah.
Why is there a band there? It's like, you bought a house near a high school.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
you hear the
you bought a
tennis
house near an
ball.
open space, do your research before you buy it, can they build behind me, are they, like,
Yeah.
how is it, but people don't, they just buy the house and say it was quiet when I got here, so it should be like that way for the rest of your life, so I don't know.
And the thing is too, with that comment about, you know, I live on a small street, I don't want more traffic. That's where I think it might be a good idea to, maybe the town can try and do some type of, it's not a master plan, but more of a trail plan, where once we do have trails cataloged, you can figure out where you, if you want to build some trailheads.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want them in high visibility areas that
Right.
do draw traffic, and, you know, you're not gonna want them at the end of like a dead end cul-de-sac, where like a resident like that's gonna say, well, I don't want more cars coming in here. and-
Yeah, and I could picture that on my street on Saddleback Hill, it's a cul-de-sac
Yeah.
and two people down there are gonna be like, no one ever came down here to do this, it was a hunter once that came down.
Yeah.
So, you're 100% right, but you
Yeah.
could also access that from like near Pete's Bluebird,
Yeah.
right? Cause
Yeah.
there's a trail that goes in that way, so you're right,
Yeah,
finding the right place is important.
and
I
that would
agree.
be a,
And then making sure we hit the lane in the parking.
yeah.
Yep.
Which is all doable, completely
Yeah.
doable, it's just, you know, you gotta put the time and effort in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put the time in to be mindful.
Yeah,
On the rest of page 4, I think this is worthy of bringing up, allow voting on topics once close to finalizing options, if anyone has thoughts or ideas on that, besides our meetings being public. I think that's like fair to make that comment. But we can't hold a public forum every month, we wouldn't get anything done.
Too
And
many
then,
chefs.
yeah, and then this one is, obviously, they're probably thinking about what the CPA or, you know, stuff.
Yeah, but I like to just don't mismanage, right? So they're
Yeah.
talking about mismanagement. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
people don't mind spending a little money if they know it's gonna be,
Right.
if they get.
It's on that defense, you know, it's Bellingham has always been very conservative in its,
Yes.
how we spend the money. And, I mean, all that new revenue is coming, you know, it's obviously, you know, a lot of stuff was put aside. And then, you know, we were banking on, you know, to use the money on certain different things. When you have to deal with certain things and then comes up and then you have to spend $2 million has to be done for the public safety, and then, you know, it's obviously you have to take care of that. But it's, I mean, relatively, you know, it's, we haven't increased taxes in this town. I would say probably 15, 20 years.
Well, it goes up. I pay more than I did, you know,
But
but it's
But it goes up, the reason why it goes up, because a lot of, that's
Yeah,
why
that's-
people get confused, because your property values goes
That's-
up. And those rates are actually, those values are set by the state, and then
Right,
you have to
Based on
get
sales.
assessed.
right.
on
But
your
don't use the
property.
term in public to say your taxes don't get up because,
Yeah,
because
That's
a lot
what
of
the
people
people,
who
they
are
get
tax focused are gonna
confused.
revolt and say, what do you mean? Every year it goes up a little bit, right?
I mean, it's not just, you know, the town is increasing the taxes, your property values are increasing, and then when it increases, you know, basically you got a taxed on based on your property value.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's semantics that you
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
because you're on the select board and you
Yeah,
understand it. When you know, but when I write my tax bill, I'm just speaking on behalf of like that person.
It's a great, that's.
Really, well,
what-
last year, don't tell me my taxes didn't go
Yeah.
up, because last year I paid 6,000, now I'm paying 650, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, and so they don't understand the menstruations, but
Yeah.
the reality of it is. It costs of living goes up, taxes go up,
Yeah.
property values go up, taxes go up, but just
No, absolutely, you're right. It's something like, when my grandmother bought her house, something, she paid $28 on Mender Street. It's it's like a 1900.
All these millennials over here like, we would like to buy a house.
$50 or something, and then now you're looking at the same property, something goes for $1.5 million. So this, you know what I'm saying?
Crazy. Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
On that note, page 5 and 6, I just wanna make sure, 5, 6, 7 are the very specific of the grid that we kind of came up with. And the great thing is people actually gave some very specific ones that really, maybe they use the area a lot, they live near it, so there's some chunks in here. But I want to implement these thoughts into the grid. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I will share this. But yeah, it's nice that they went through.
Yeah,
and, like,
someone
said
spent a lot of time.
very
thinking.
specific, multiple people did.
Yeah.
So that's good. And
That's what it was for, right?
this is what it was for, because I haven't
Good
visited
call.
all of them, or I didn't grow up using all of them. I don't drive by all of these every single day, so. Like, the scoreboard electricity at High Street,
High Street.
like, yeah.
Look at the last
so-
comment, the air being sold.
They've always had a generator, it's a pain.
What is that?
Put some
They had
concessions.
a generator to
Oh.
run.
And for a
Beer.
beer.
No, they're-
Great line.
Yeah, we're gonna do a craft.
Did some
program.
food trucks.
I like that.
You know, Scott, fund for preservation, that's interesting.
Uh,
It's like they didn't have a fund.
I think we should add that, this sell beer, I think you got a little.
we're the cool town.
Oh, do they really?
People come from miles around and go to
I
Silverland.
think something to do with.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that's like a fund where
Why would
people
you pay
donate
for it?
money
Oh.
that would go directly to help.
Like
preserve
restricted,
or-
like a restricted fund within the
Yeah,
town.
like a
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're almost there, you have a minute and a half left.
yeah, a minute and a half here. The last thing was I gave people the option to put their name and email if they want to be updated more. We got people.
Got people.
So I guess I have to create something
I
now.
recognize you. I'm on the committee.
No, I'm really glad
Yeah,
that
they're right
so
there.
many people are interested. So like this guy here.
Who's that guy?
Never heard of him.
Who's this guy?
You should be volunteer or something.
So yeah, I think this is proof that
He is-
people care and people want us keep in the know. And so when I was saying earlier, like things that are
There's
free
the
or
education part too. right?
easy for us to do, they want it, we can do it. So that's
Now,
the
do we
purpose.
keep those, like, do we have a database of people who participated in this? Cause that might be.
So it's all anonymous unless they filled out this.
That's what I'm
last
saying,
form.
but
Oh.
since they said we
Keeping
could,
this.
they put it,
Yeah,
could we start, cause if we're gonna push a initiative, can you
Yeah.
then use those to send them emails?
yeah,
I don't see why not.
They provide.
Why not, they gave it to me.
Yeah, as well
Yeah.
as if there's other people that aren't on that list that signed up.
Yeah, I can.
You know,
send
I know
you
there's a
those
bunch of us
CPA
that
stuff.
are, but there's names I didn't see, so.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
yep, definitely. They can always email me saying,
Yeah, let's
please
get
take
a
me off the
file.
list, you
Right.
know,
We can get the file going
Yeah.
tomorrow and then we can start the sharing that stuff.
yeah.
So can we, I know we only have no time left, but are we pushing now to have a CPA, like you're gonna start looking into like a CPA committee, et cetera, that's what you're gonna do next?
I'm gonna get on that tomorrow.
Because I think we have to do something, if we're gonna do something, I'd say November 20th is the meeting, right?
Yeah, it's right there.
And if we're working backwards from there, we gotta have,
I don't have much time.
no,
So that's why I was kind of a little hesitant about it, but it's, I mean, it seems like, amount of people were here, they were pushing it. And then we'll honor that request and then, everyone promised they're gonna spread the word. They're gonna put their support all behind it and then for that reason, and then we will go with it.
Yeah.
And as I said, I love the idea. I was
Yeah,
and I was excited about it since we started discussing it. And I think it's a great thing, if we can accomplish it, there are a lot of benefits to it. It's, all that money, instead of waiting, if we can just get it going, and then, as I said, I think I think it was Brian was the one that mentioned that, he says like your 401k. every money you add it into it, they match it for you. So
That's
I
what
think,
we
you know,
do
the
tell.
rough numbers, you know, it's
Right.
gonna be
We get
discussed.
money.
We will probably, if with the 1%, we will get close to 140 grand collected last year, and then that money, once they match it, it was gonna be $280,000 for 1 year.
Yeah.
So that money, before you even know it, I mean, you know, it accumulates so quickly. I think Franklin got over $500,000 last year, right?
Yeah. It's like-
Somewhere around there. But as I said, if they do, I think they did 2%. So if they do 2%, if you go for 2%, it will be the same thing, and it's, I mean, at the end of the 2026, we will have a $500,000 CPA account. And then we can use it for different projects.
So I think you're gonna talk to Dennis.
Yeah.
We're probably definitely gonna talk.
Yeah,
You'll
you'll push Dennis though, because I'm afraid, I like Dennis, but I'm afraid he's part of the people that have said you can never raise the tax.
I mean, it's, since I started, you know, discussing with Dennis, you know, he was so helpful. I mean, he was so helpful to us as usual, and I think it was very helpful to you on this
Good.
matter, you know, it's obviously, you know, I think he asked our CFO to put some numbers together, and then, you know, it's, I mean, you know, we put some numbers together.
Good.
What we're gonna do is tomorrow, hopefully, or latest Friday, we're gonna put all that file together, and then we're gonna start with this list, and we're gonna just.
But I know, I mean, sometimes like, well, so you gotta be careful and put it, but it sounds like we're, not that we're not being careful, but we're gonna do this in
Yeah.
November. And.
And if it doesn't, and then,
Yep.
if it doesn't, and
Great
then,
guy,
it's-
I'm not
He's
trying
awesome.
to, listen, I love him, but
if it doesn't.
And the
then we'll
CPA
figure it out.
isn't required for the open space, so.
Yeah.
That
Right,
will be
that's a good
used
point.
to get other sources of funding, so what we could even say for part of our open space plan is to. Put together an action plan to use the CPA funds for. As like one of our goals.
Yeah, it's probably, it will go to the general fund, and then it will be on a separate,
Yeah, the
Separate
committee would
section?
have to
yeah,
allocate where it
Yeah.
goes to. So as an open space committee, we would have to go to them saying, we would like to request this much,
Yeah.
or, yeah.
Just like the historical society.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. On that note,
Motion to adjourn.
do you want something to be said on? the
Just, all I was gonna say was for the whole, the CPA discussion will be very quick. You know, I know the open space committee, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Yeah, excellent.
Lead on that.
I would just say, I think the CPA you guys have initiated, which I think is great. I think it's really the select board that I think is the one who should probably run with to get it onto the town
I mean,
warrant.
you know, it's, as I said, it's, I was the one that kind of pushing it from the get-go.
Yeah,
And you have my full support on that, which you had my full support on that topic since we started talking about it. I
yeah,
know, I mean, it's, the rest of the board will be on board with that too.
yeah,
We discussed it in the past.
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I don't.
You mean after that?
They have to initiate it and get the.
That's what, because I don't think that, like, I thought there was a lot of very valuable discussion here tonight, but, you know, some of the comments I think might have been a little bit pointed towards this committee, like, you gotta get it done. Well, you're working on the open space plan.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're not initiating the CPA. That's more,
So I think, you know, this board will approves it
Yeah,
and then send it to the select board, and the select board will take a vote on it, and then that will go to the town meeting. But it's my understanding is, you know, it has to go to the town meeting, it's gonna pass through the town meeting by the majority.
Yep.
And then after it's gonna go on the ballot,
yeah,
and so 2 different steps.
Yeah, but I think, are you saying like the committee that's gonna push this, not us? The select board is the one that has to
Yes,
initiate
it has
that.
to, yeah, so we
Okay.
approve.
correct.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want, you know, let's set up a meeting for next week and it'll be all about CPA. People are gonna come here, we're gonna get a work plan to get this thing to town meeting, like, I think it's select
no,
board.
we still need to know what the rules and.
Yes,
Yeah.
bring that person in to go.
Yeah, once we explore of this idea, which we are,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna get all the information, we're gonna pass to the select board, and then the select.
Yeah,
board
good job.
will take
Yeah,
it.
that's all.
Next step.
Alright.
Is there a certain date it has to be
Well, it helps.
on one?
Hillary does give us a date.
It's September 20th, which is coming up, but the warrant is posted October
You can take some.
4th, so you have a little bit of time to get things. So if there's a placeholder on, work.
All right, we are ending this meeting.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
You too.